my 2 cents. Rich, what do you think? K1ETP, KD2BRM.
Bruce is an S5 into the Yeso with no antenna connected to it. I don't think he needs more power.
Yeah, I agree. K1ETP. Bruce, you got a very strong signal here, and man, it's just a lot of audio in your carry. Not, it's dense. I don't know if you're using processing there in Orban or something like that. But got a lot of dense audio, it seems. And Ernie, lots of audio too on that Anon of yours. But yeah, it sounds good. And I agree on the power. I think 200 to 250, which is all I run. Right now I'm running 200 watts. This Anon is pushing my AL1200, and I can easily run 400 watts output and still get well over 100% modulation, according to the REA mod monitor. But why do it? Why beat things up? So 200 watts seems to do it. Nobody complains about me being piss weak, so that's where it will remain. And a lot of times I just run my Valiant, which is about 125, 130 watts, and nobody can tell the difference. So, or if they can, they don't mention it. And Brett, okay on renting the radios? Yeah, that's if you're really enthusiastic about playing with different radios, and I see not only do you do that, but you write up everything, which is really good. The information that you write up on the various sites is very informative to people, so that's a good deal there. And flip it in a day or two at the cost of taking your wife out to dinner. You get to play with the radio for a few months. So there you go. Just have to tell the XYL, now we're eating at home tonight. Anyways, I'm going to keep it short here. I'll stay in here for one more, then I got to get going. And I missed a bit of your transmission, Bruce, because I had to run upstairs for a few minutes. And Ernie, it feels so good not have to worry about that stove today. I don't even know what the weather's supposed to be tomorrow. I don't know if this warm weather's going to stay with us or if it's going to get cold again. I have not seen a weather forecast, so I don't know. But I brought some wood in today into the basement here just in case. But not just one day. I'm not screwing with the wood burning stove. By this time of the year, you get really fed up with that chore. And it was nice, a nice break today. Hopefully tomorrow too. In fact, I had to order some oil. I'm down to a half a tank. So I used a half a tank of oil. The 23rd of November is when I had the thing filled, and now it's just over a half empty. I think it's from where the gauge is on that particular tank. I'm figuring I've used about 130 to 140 gallons, even though it's measuring below half. 275 gallon tank. It's not accurate. So I'll take it. A quart of wood. Every time I get it filled, it's like twice as much as I pay for a quart of wood. Well, not that much, but 1.5 times what I pay for a quart of wood. And quart of wood will last well, with the weather we've had this year, it's been pretty mild. So about 2 months, the way I burn it. I've just started today bringing in this year's wood. I still have some of the last year's wood left, but it's a lot of small stuff. But all winter here, I've been burning last year's wood, stuff left over from last year, because last year the weather was, unseasonably warm most of the winter. So I'm way ahead of the game here as far as wood goes. Anyways, enough of that. Go ahead, Brett. I need to go see you. Yeah. N2 DTS K1ETP.
WA3VJB. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Paul. There was NX3Z I heard an error earlier also.
still here?
Oh, I didn't know all these people were in there. Hello, Paul.
Somebody say something.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Fred. Make
well,
one
I think it's
and
your
turn it over
turn,
to me.
Brett. So if you want to pick up the breakers, I would say go ahead. And also, good afternoon, Paul.
Yeah, I'll put it to NX3Z, as Pedro would say. I'll put it to him, and then he can put it to WA3VJB, Paul.
Okay, we'll get the Maryland connection going here. Let's see, I got too much power going out there. Let me turn that down a little. Well, good evening, everybody. Jim is here, NX3Z, located north of Towson, Maryland, in the little hamlet of Phoenix, Maryland. And I've got a Central Electronics 100V on the air tonight. And I think I'm hitting it too hard. Yeah, okay. Crank it back a little. Okay, that looks better. So good to hear everybody. I've been enjoying the conversation here about rigs and wood and all kinds of stuff. I've just been getting this 100V resurrected and playing with some audio processing equipment and receiving with my SP600 Hammerland receiver tonight. So I wanted to see if I could get that muting circuits and everything hooked up. And so good to hear everybody. Let me turn it over to my other Marylander here, to Paul. Is it WA3VJB, I think it is, or if I P, I'm not sure I messed that up, Paul. Over to you, NX3Z.
Yes, the valuable junk box, NX3Z, and the group from WA3 Virgin's Jealous Boyfriend. Hello to everybody on frequency. Good conditions right now. Wow, it sounds really good on the band. Got a nice chunk of passband to listen on, and tall ship magnitude signals to listen to, and this is really nice. Tuned in for a while as Bruce was giving his discussion of the McKay transmitter that he's got. I have the ITT McKay Marine receiver, the 3040 Alpha. Boy, that thing is really built too. I'm using it here on 40 right now, as a matter of fact. It's got the same black face front panel as the Super Senior, and it looks as if the two of them are meant to be together. And yes, I agree with the power discussion too. Running a 1/4 kilowatt here, same as the Collins 300G. Nobody can tell the difference, and seems to be entirely adequate to make the trip up and down the East Coast here for the most part. And Brett, yeah, I will second the motion of your public service in buying and testing all these rigs, even if you...
Can I cut your lips off?
Just renting them for a while and then passing them on. It's nice to get your discussion about them, specifically on AM. I think that's a neglected part of the product review process that you see around the internet. And you're doing a great public service to test these things in great depth on our part of the hobby. So I'll tip my hat to you for that as well. And Rich, yeah, very good on the firewood. We've been doing a combination of firewood and heating oil. And I think for the latest cold spell where we had a number of 11-degree overnights, next morning says 11 degrees, yikes. We've gone through about a 1/2 quart of wood with the wood stove that we've discussed in the past. I just bought a new catalyst. So I guess you got to kind of figure that into the cost equation too. New catalyst in our particular fireplace insert with firewood is about $250 for the catalyst. And I get about 8 years out of the one that was in there. So I guess I have to extrapolate that across my energy equation here in the time ahead if I do an economic equation of any kind. But there's just something nice about a firewood-based fire downstairs. The hearth and home thing. And both our Labrador retrievers love it. They stretch out, we stretch out, and the whole house has this wonderful cozy sense of things. So speaking of cozy, I guess it's your turn, Ernie. How you doing? I'll make it a little shorter this time around, and we'll pick it up and get the rotation, get me involved in things here. KD2BRM.
When you said that, my ears perked up like a Labrador. Yeah, good afternoon, Jim. NX3Z in the group from Phoenix, Arizona, Maryland. No, just kidding. Yeah, and Paul, WA3VJB, good group here. Yeah, I'll keep it short. I got to probably get out of here in about 15 minutes. I have a chicken in the oven, and I got to make some rice and some vegetables, so I'm on a limited time here. But good to hear everybody. Great signals coming in from everyone here. Yeah, Paul, the wood stove we have does not have any of the, I guess, emission control stuff you'd call it. So I guess it's a dirty burner. It's like a pre-diesel particulate filter vehicle or a pre-catalytic converter vehicle. So but I'm always a year ahead on my wood. So the wood I'm burning now was not split last year. It was split the year before. So everything is usually ridiculously seasoned. Very little sizzle. You know, all that good stuff. We have natural gas here at the house, which the prices are very cheap right now, and it's been the way to go. No chimney cleaning, you know, I don't have to rip the top of the boiler off with the brushes and clean all the plates and suck the junk out and change the filter, the federal filter and all that good jazz. But yeah, good stuff, man. Everybody's got good signals. Yeah, I was hoping you came in, Paul, because Bruce mentioned the McKay, and I was, you know, I was thinking of you. So I'm glad you actually came in there. Now there's a McKay receiver and a McKay transmitter on the air at the same time. So that's really cool. I think I had other crap to add to the QSO, but I've forgotten I got lost because I'm over here sitting here listening and enjoying the QSO and all the good signals. And yeah, Richaroni probably said a couple of things I wanted to comment on, but I don't even remember. So I'll shut my lips. And if you throw it back to me next time and I'm not here, it's because I got to tend to dinner. But everybody's putting out really, really good signals. We still got Brett in there, Rich, Bruce, Jim, Paul, and there was another break-in station. I completely lost track of the rotation. I think I was passing it back to... You know what? Let me throw it back to Bruce. I feel like Bruce might have got squeezed out of the rotation. So, Bruce, if you're still in there, please grab it. W2XR in the group, KD2BRM.
Yeah, Bruce is still in here, Ernie. KD2BRM and the group from W2XR. Very, very good. Yes, signals are booming in. No QSB. I've got the R390 and the 16 kilohertz. I have bandpass position, listening to everybody in full fidelity, and really, really great quality signals from a audio standpoint. I mean, everybody is really better, as I like to say, better than broadcast quality. And I'll say hello also to Jim in Phoenix, Maryland. Nice to make your acquaintance. As Ernie had pointed out, my name is Bruce, and my QTH is Smithtown, Long Island, New York. We're probably about, I don't know, roughly 20 miles, I think, to the northeast of Ernie's QTH. And just a little bit of clarification with regard to the transmitter. The only part of this transmitter that is originally made by McKay Radio is strictly the power amplifier. I designed and built everything else myself. All of the AC power distribution circuitry, the screen and bias supplies, the audio driver for the push-pull 833A modulators. So again, the only unit made by McKay is the pair of common cathode 4-400As. And if you go to my QRZ.com page, if you look at the picture of the transmitter, which in the shack is the 6.5-foot rack on the far right, you'll see pretty much in the dead center of that rack that classic charcoal gray front panel that McKay Radio had used for many of their marine type radio pieces of equipment, and that's the unit. And it's a nice amplifier. Like I say, I really totally redid the thing. I had to modify the RF driver circuit. It only takes 100 milliwatts of RF drive to drive this thing, if I wanted to better than a kilowatt output. If I wanted to spin the variac up to 3,000 volts DC on the plates. But we never run it anywhere near that, no need, even on the 75 meter band, not to mention the fact that it's not exactly compliant with the amateur regulations. But be that as it may, we have gas here too, Ernie. Remember the old saying that Lilko used to have, gas heats best, which I agree with. We have a what's called a modulating furnace here, and we're able to get actually 95% efficiency, which is an incredible number. It's an interesting technology. It's multiple burners with multiple blower speeds. It's microprocessor controlled, and the unit optimizes the BTU output depending upon the thermal loss within the house. And I've had that furnace again since I think we put it in 2011, I think it was. Yeah, when we gave the house pretty much a complete facelift. Anyway, I think that it goes to Rich, and he said that if he didn't pick it up, that he was going to pretty much sign off for right now. But be that as it may, Rich, I'm going to pass it up to you, and I guess if Rich doesn't pick it up, I believe it may go to Brett. So K1ETP up in the great state of Massachusetts and the group. This is W2XR, Long Island, New York.
Well, I don't know if it's such a great state anymore. Our new governor, Maura Healey, is begging the citizens of this state to take in illegal aliens. Because there's no more room for them at the airport. Logan Airport's a mess. Boy, I'm telling you, what a mess this administration has made of this alien situation here. Good God. Anyway, K1ETP. Yeah, I'm going to thin the herd by one here after this one. Head upstairs. Jim, good evening to you. I don't think I've spoken to you before, but your 100V sounds terrific. That is a great radio. That radio was way before its time. Boy, Art Collins had nothing on the 100V people, the Central Electronics people. I think the 200 was even, the 200 is one I'm thinking of. The 100 is not as fancy as the 200, but the 200 is really a great looking radio to play with. A buddy of mine has one. Let's see, Paul. I'll make one comment on just about everybody here. The catalyst that you called, I call mine a catalytic converter. I think that's what Dutch West calls it. And I just replaced mine this year. It costs about $140, and mine is ceramic. And boy, I'll tell you, it lasts about 3 years. I think it's 20,000 hours or something like that, or I forget. But boy, the first year and the second year you have that new converter in there. Boy, does the stove run great. It just burns so cleanly, and it's just and very efficiently and very hot, and nothing coming out of the chimney except when the catalytic converter isn't engaged and you got the flue wide open, then you'll get smoke coming out of the chimney when you first start the fire. But once you get the firebox up to about 350 degrees, you can close the damper and everything goes through the honeycomb ceramic converter there, and it's just you get a second burn, and that thing, you can see it. If you get in front of the stove and look at the roof of the firebox, you can see that ceramic converter just glowing, a bright red. And
it's like a 3500Z.
All kinds of heat out of the stove. It's remarkable. And I've got a thermometer that sits in the top of the stove that fits down into the catalytic converter, and it typically runs about 1200 degrees. And man, that's hot. The top of the stove is 1200 degrees, but the catalytic converter is. So there you go. As far as wood goes, yep. Yeah, another thing I want to say about my stove is it looks really nice. You know, it's a cast iron black stove, and it sits on the fireplace hearth in front of the fireplace. You know, we don't use the fireplace, of course, and it just looks nice there, and it sits out. It's not an insert or anything like that, so you get all sides of the stove giving off heat. And it has a two speed blower in it too. There's a jacket in there that it blows air out of, but I never turn it on because I don't need to. In fact, I'll turn it on when the temperature gets down around 0, because then the stove is starting to meet its match. But above that, I don't need it, and it tends to dry the air out more when you're blowing hot air out of it than just letting it, the convection hot air rise off of the stove. Also, Ernie, I wanted to comment. I wonder if Glenn ever made that on. I haven't heard him on, and I also haven't heard Steve on. But I know Steve, VWC's out there sandbagging, and he's just waiting for me to say something wrong, and then he'll come down and get on the air. But Steve, I'm signing, so yeah, you missed your opportunity. Anyways, over to you, Brett. And yeah, I second what Paul says about your AM reviews. They're very, very useful there. 7-3's guys, I'll listen out for a couple of minutes here. N2 DTS and the group K1 ETP.
Don't bait me.
See you later, Rich.
KD1 BWC.
Rich, you dry out the air with your hot air on 7280 all day, so 73.
Oh. Hot air. Oh boy, what a group. It's getting a little chaotic. I think there are some breakers in there and all, and I'm going to flee the complexity to the kitchen, where I can uncomplexly prepare dinner. But I did want to say, I think the Central Electronics stuff is really cool, and it's still pulling down some really good bucks. I mean, I've seen them listed for, $600 and all that, and more. I just was wondering what the difference was between the 100V and the 200V. I'm going to have to look that up. But any radio that has an oscilloscope on the front has my vote for being really cool. A Magic Eye tube or an oscilloscope built in is really cool. I'm looking at a QST April 1961 Dynamic Punch. Central Electronics, famous for Dynamic Punch, announces the new 200V broadband exciter transmitter. $800. $800 in 61. What could you get? I think you could get a car for that, right? Really completely broadbanded and only tuned to VFO. How did they do that? I'm really curious as to how did they make them broadbanded and work so good. And it's upper sideband, lower sideband, AM, phase modulation, CW, FSK, all at the flip of a switch. There is nothing finer than the 200V. Really cool. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Like I said, I'm going to do dinner. I want to say hello to Paul. And yeah, as far as the reviews go, there's lots of reviews on a lot of radios, but nobody ever mentions how they are on AM. And I look at like 100 reviews for a radio on QTH, and I don't see any mention of anything about the AM function. So I figure I'll supply the missing information. But I turned it over to Jim on 100V. I want to hear that again, so I'm going to turn it over to him, and he can turn it over to Paul. Listen for a bit, because I want to hear 100V. NX3Z in the large erratic group from N2DTS. Go ahead, Jim, with the 100V.
Which rig is this? Which rig is this, Brett?
We leave Ernie out. I had, I'm not sure. Well, I'll take it, and then I know I gave it to Paul. So, but I'm feeling like maybe we left Ernie out, but maybe Paul turned it over to Ernie. Anyway, the 100V speaks. Well, thanks for the nice reports and this is really, it's a fun rig. It doesn't have all of the bells and whistles it had when it was new. I picked it up from a guy, well, I got it via Howard Mills out of Harper's Ferry, and he got it from a guy he refers to as Bad Bob, and I apologize for not knowing the guy's name, but he did a lot of, they bought up a whole bunch of parts evidently, and got a bunch of the 100 and 200 Vs and restored them. But there's some things on here like SWR indicators and stuff like that, or mismatch indicators, and a limiter function, and some other things that they pulled out because they just figured it wasn't worth fixing them. But the broadbandedness of this thing and not having to tune it is amazing. And I had some trouble with it losing power. Because it got overheated, or part of the RF section was getting overheated, so I solved that problem by taking it out of the case. I was going to try to freeze some of the parts and see if the power would come back up if I sprayed a resistor or a capacitor or something like that. That was detuning, for lack of a better word, from the heat. But once I got it out of the case and I put a muffin fan over the RF section, the thing's working like it's just humming along. So I do use it with an amplifier not to overtax anything, and but it will put out 100 watts, so it's a fun radio to play with, and fits nicely with my. I've got 3 vintage receivers here in a rack that I rotate between. Today I'm using the SP600, which is fun to listen to also. I'm not going to stay in beyond listening out here, and because I got to get off to a meeting later and got to get something to eat before I go. But it's fun getting on here, and I'm listening to you guys on the speaker. That was the first speaker I ever heard a ham radio signal come out. My old Elmer gave it to me many, many, many years ago. I've been a ham for 60 years, so and I picked up this speaker and I've kept it, and you guys are coming out of that same speaker that I first heard my first ham on. Guy out of Ohio. I fell in love with the hobby immediately. I got the bug. I got bit hard. So over to you, Paul, and I'll listen out for a couple more, and then I'll be on my way, but I won't be here for the next call up. So WA3VJB in Annapolis. This is NX3Z in Phoenix, Maryland.
Yes, to Phoenix, Maryland. Good to hear you on again, Jim. I'm glad you're coming back regularly here. Seems like it was quite a period of time from our first contact to when you came back again, so it's good that you're exercising the 100V. And the SP600. Yeah, that's a good radio. I've got a JX21 sitting over here that I ought to substitute back into the operating position in the rack. I've got an R390 in there right now, and it fits a little better with my TR control circuitry. The SP600's a little bit different in having to break that keyed line. Now, I can do it. I've got an extra set of relay contacts, but I need to actually bring them out and do that. I had a JX19, and it did not have a stock meter, and it had a number of other problems, and I moved that along to somebody else, and I had a line on this JX21 that already had the ceramic capacitors in it instead of the orange drops, and it's been quite a performer ever since. So I may bring that off the shelf and put it back in the rack here, just on your suggestion there of having use it with your 100V. Sure sounds good. I did not send you a link to the video audio air check that we recorded on our last QSO. Tonight's even better, and I will do that. And so look for an email with that link here later this evening or whenever I get around to it, because that sure does sound good. Others have commented on your audio quality and the fact that it's got a scope in the front panel. I agree with you, Brett. That is too cool. We had a 20A Central Electronics at the University of Maryland station, W3EAX. And it was so stable and so quality that we used it in a transverter scheme for VHF and UHF that N1QG, Ed Nowak, had configured. He actually built a 4CX250 in a transverter configuration that was driven by the 20A. And I always thought it was a cool radio that had the magic eye in the front panel. But it's even better, it's got a scope. Oh, man, it's good stuff. And yeah, there's a lot more to comment on. Ernie's going to head off for his chicken pretty soon, so I have to get it over to him. And Bruce, yeah, it's good to have you on 40 meters. I meant to comment specifically to your appearance here on 40 with the McKay transmitter that you've modified and brought up to spec. I think you'll be a very welcome addition to our afternoon QSO party here on 7280. So here comes Ernie, and take it for another round. Bruce might be out of there by now. No, actually, Bruce was sticking around. It was Ernie. It was Rich who might be headed for the door, as well as Jim here, too, who's got to go somewhere this evening. And Brett, yeah, more to you later. I heard you on 80 meters the other night. I was going to check in and say hey there, too. But, yeah, you got my accolades for representing this part of the hobby in your product reviews. KD2BRM in the group, WA3VJB. Go ahead, Ern.
I think he signed off there, Paul.
I think you're right. So after him was yourself. Go ahead.
And I think you're right. WA3VJB, Annapolis, Maryland, and the group from W2XR. Well, Central Electronics, a very interesting company, founded by a gentleman by the name of Wes Shum, I think in 1947. And Wes Shum should be given credit, or I guess in the minds of perhaps some of us on frequency, although I don't necessarily subscribe to this opinion, for the failure or the fault of introducing single sideband to the amateur radio bands. And he was a very talented engineer, and I think his claim to fame was certainly the development of these wide bandwidth RF networks that permitted his equipment to QSY with basically zero retuning. And I believe every single sideband exciter that he had built used the phasing technique. I don't think he built anything using the filter generation technique of single sideband. But he sold the business in the early 1960s to Zenith Radio, who had no interest whatsoever in getting involved in the amateur radio market, but they wanted the technology of the broadband RF networks that Wes Shum had developed. And if I'm not mistaken, once they acquired the company, either immediately or very shortly thereafter, Zenith Radio essentially killed the business. Again, they just wanted the broadband network technology. So that's a very, very quick synopsis, if you will, of Central Electronics. And what was also interesting, I don't know if it was the 100V or the 200V, he used 6550 Tungsol beam power pentodes as the RF amplifier stage, and he used them because those were tubes developed for very linear audio amplification applications, primarily in the popular Williamson circuit. And in order to get the best possible intermodulation distortion performance, he selected those tubes for RF output tubes, which was interesting because they were never really designed for RF. And it leads the question of how efficient the RF amplifier stage was once you got on to maybe 20 through 10 meters. I have no idea, but perhaps Jim would know if he's still listening and if he wanted to perhaps make one more comment. But a very, very well thought out and beautifully designed equipment. And to whomever made the comment about the CE equipment holding its value, the 100 and the 200V, I would have to agree with that. There's one other comment I wanted to make about Central Electronics, but it's currently, oh, I remember, yeah. I think it was Brett who said the Manufacturers suggested retail price was like $800 in 1961. Well, that would translate roughly into maybe $7,200 in current dollars. That was a lot of money to spend, obviously, on an amateur radio transmitter in 1961. And it was probably targeted towards well-heeled amateurs who had that kind of disposable income. One other comment, too, I should have addressed this earlier. Rich had asked the question if I was using like an Orban Optimod or something for processing. Nope. Using the same audio processing I run when this rig is on 75 meters. Just a very, very high quality, solid state microphone preamp, driving a 32-band graphic EQ, and my Innovonics 222 peak limiter with about 6 dB of gain limiting. No fancy multi-band audio processing with this rig currently, although I do have a Doro DAP610, and I do have the Optimod 9100A. I don't like them, and I like the quality and effectiveness of modulation control that I get with the Innovonics. So that was a long enough transmission. And who gets it? Rich is gone. Jim may be in the listening mode. Brett, maybe it comes to you, and I don't know how much longer you said you wanted to stay here either. So let me send it over to you. N2 DTS and the group. This is W2XR.
KC1 TV up with 9.
There's a station on sideband in there. I did not hear Brett come back, but if the station on sideband wants to find some carrier, you can join us. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Alan. I'm new. Passed my general a month ago, and I'm trying out a new antenna. I'm just like to join the group for a few minutes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you got to have some carrier for anybody to hear you. We're on AM, and I keyed up my transmitter so that I could hear you. Otherwise, you're not going to be heard. Can you switch over to AM?
Yeah,
Yep, you're in there. Go ahead. What's your call?
Hi, my name's Alan. Call sign is KC1 TVS. I live in Mansfield, Connecticut.
Yeah, hi, Alan. Mansfield, Connecticut. And I copied KC1 Tango Bravo Mike. Is that correct?
Kilo.
You have KC1 Tango Charlie Mike. Is that right, Alan?
Kilo Charlie 1. Tango Victor Sierra.
Okay, gotcha. KC1 Tango Victor Sierra, Allen, Mansfield, Connecticut. Very good evening to you from Annapolis, the capital of Maryland. My call letters are WA3VJB, Victor Juliet Bravo. And welcome to AM. This is where all the cool kids hang out. 7280 in the afternoons. I understand that you've got a new antenna that you're testing out. I'm located on the Chesapeake Bay. We got a couple other guys in here. One of them, actually, it's probably just Bruce and I at this point, because the other guys went off to dinner. So I can at least give you a signal report from the Chesapeake Bay region of Maryland, the state capital, where you're between S9 and 10 over 9. And I guess you zero beat the QSO. There was a number in here. I don't know how long you've been listening. But you've got Bruce in Long Island, Whiskey 2 X-ray radio. And why don't you make another transmission, Alan, and introduce yourself, and then kick it over to Bruce there so he can give you a report as well. KC1 TVS, Tango Victor Sierra, Mansfield, Connecticut. WA3VJB, welcome.
thank you. Yeah, and I also wanted to know if anybody knows my cousin. He's next monitor these frequencies. His call sign is KC3AJ2. His name is Doug. I don't think so. I'm going to have to check with it. Either this one or the low frequency. The OSC.
No, I personally don't use sideband. I have a wholesome AM signal with both carrier and sideband, so I wouldn't know him. But maybe, Bruce, that was enough to get a signal report for Alan there at Mansfield Con. I'll copy Bruce on him.
Yeah, I copy his call, Paul, is Kilowatt Charlie 1 Tango Victor Sierra. He's not too strong here on Long Island. And you're off frequency too, Alan. I'm running synchronous detection here, so Paul is really locking up my sync detector, but you're off frequency, and I have to keep resetting it. Can you, I'm right on 7280.00. Can you, Alan, zero beat my carrier, so you and Paul will be on the same frequency? And the other thing is your audio is relatively low. You're not too strong here. You're coming in about maybe 30 dB carrier level on my R390. And just to give you a point of reference, Paul is coming in about 80 dB carrier level on my receiver. So you're not too strong. I don't know what kind of equipment you're running or what kind of an antenna. And on another note, congratulations on joining the ranks of amateur radio. I think you mentioned you had only gotten your general about a month ago, I think you said. And Paul and I have been licensed amateurs for substantially longer than that, but everybody has to start somewhere, so congratulations. Before I continue, let me just check the tuning on my rig, because everything is really warmed up here. Okay, 1500. All right, I can turn up the high voltage a bit. There we go. Nope, I'm going to leave it at 1500 volts, 1600 volts. Just need to turn up just bear with me 1 second, guys. Still kind of getting used to this 40-meter operation with this amplifier. Okay. There we go. I think we're good for the duration at this point. But yeah, that's pretty much my take on Alan's signal. And Alan, can you possibly increase your audio a bit? Because again, your modulation at this end is rather low and a little bit difficult to receive. WA3VJB and the group from W2XR.
Okay, so I've made a couple adjustments while you were speaking. I hope it's a little clear. I'm not sure if I should talk closer or further away from the mic. I'll give you a 1, 2, 3, 4 count. Mansfield, Connecticut, and I believe you're in Long Island. My name's Alan.
Yeah, I'm here in the town of Smithtown, Long Island, New York. We're about 40 miles east of New York City on the north shore of Long Island. And I know that I've heard of Mansfield, but I can't remember exactly where it is in the state of Connecticut. Are you near the Hartford area or what, Alan?
That is correct. The Hartford area. About 20 minutes from here.
Okay. And I guess you're running relatively low power, but real quick before you turn it back to Paul, what kind of an antenna are you running on 40 meters?
I believe it's an end-fed, and there's a wire coming out of the box. And it goes up into a tree. I believe it's 170 feet long.
Okay, an end-fed. Okay, all right. You might find you might have a much more effective antenna if you were to try to center feed that as a dipole and either cut the length so it's resonant on this frequency, or feed it with open wire transmission line, and you'd probably have a pretty effective radiator here on the 40-meter band. But anyway, Paul, why don't you pick it up? How are you copying Alan down there in Maryland?
Yeah, I'm using the sync detector as well, so it's very helpful to have him up on 80 now. Yeah, Alan, you're right on frequency. That's good. Yeah, I agree. It sounds like you've got more carrier than you do audio, so if you can close talk that microphone, you'll be making the most of whatever carrier level that rig can muster. I didn't catch the model nomenclature as to which rig you're running, but yeah, welcome to the hobby and welcome to the AM part of the hobby. From about 72, 76 on up to the top of the band, you can look for AM activity to take place throughout the day and into the evening, into the afternoons. A number of us enjoy the higher quality sound typically available on AM. And of course, the quieting of the carrier is an important cue to the others on the frequency that you're either collecting your thoughts to make more of a point, or that you're done and you're ready to turn it over to the next guy, which is a very important piece of information in the pace and punctuation of a QSO there, Alan. So I don't know what else we can do to welcome you in. Perhaps you can specify what rig you've got there, and you'll notice that there's a lot of sit back and tell some stories. So over to you for another one. Bruce, I'm going to get out of here. Happy hour began 25 minutes ago. So I'm going to head for the house. Congratulations on bringing the McKay up to 40 meters. And we'll look forward to more airtime here. Your Innovonics 222 sounds good, by the way. I'll be posting a recording of this, air check recording to this, over on the Facebook AM page that you're in on. Here comes Alan, KC1TVS at Mansfield, Connecticut. And you'll turn it back to Bruce there. I'll listen out. Nice to have you along. WA3VJB Annapolis. Go ahead, Alan.
K4DB KC2CWM.
Really sorry for you to do again. I was busy for a second. I didn't hear everything that you were telling me.
I'm sorry, Alan. My wife just stopped by in the shack. I didn't copy your question. Could you repeat it for me?
And what is your location again? And am I speaking too close to the mic? Is what I'm curious.
No, if anything, you're perhaps speaking too far from the microphone, but I don't know what kind of a rig you're running, but is there an audio gain control or a microphone gain control on the front panel of that rig that you can turn up so that the level of modulation would increase? Because you are a little bit difficult to copy. First of all, like I said earlier, your RF signal strength is not really that strong, and I think even if the signal the carrier received here was not as strong as it could be, if you were to increase the audio,